Reporting live from the cheap seats.
Get your beer here.
This is Section 341 on CFSL Radio with Gregg.
We are, people, back again. Section 341, a week 8 recap. It's been a long road, y'all, but we're here now. We're looking forward to the playoffs. We're going to congratulate all the teams that were able to make it, and the teams that weren't so fortunate. Y'all start planning now for the all season and looking forward to next year. But without any further ado, week 8 recap. Here we go, baby. I'm Gregg. This is Section 341. On CFSL Radio. Let's get it. So, this game was 8 weeks in the making. We heard about it all week prior. Matter of fact, for weeks prior, we've been hearing about this game. Both teams had a circle on the schedule. They've been going back and forth about it in the chat and just trash talking, smack talking, all in good fun. Well, mostly all in good fun. But Texas and Clemson. We wanted to see if Ray Tatum could take down Javon Mack and the defending champion. And the burnt orange buzzsaw kept on rolling. They got back on track after a 5-interception game from Tatum in the game prior. But that was in the past, right? So Texas came out and they got it on track. They won 49-28. Ray Tatum got his jersey retired. And it was a glorious occasion. They had turkey legs and, oh my God, they had these photo cakes on their fam. Oh my God, to die for. But anyway, listen. So Javon Mack was 26 for 38. He had 214, no touchdowns, 1 interception. They shut him down all night long. Mike Chadwick did score 2 touchdowns. He had 39 yards rushing on 13 carries. Jack Tyler had 8 tackles, 2 for loss. Barry Allen showed up to play for Clemson. He had 15 tackles. I mean, oh my God. And he had 1 long 77-yard kickoff return. But it was all for naught as Texas emerged victorious in a big way. Ray Tatum with 36 for 45, 442 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He also had 10 carries for 36 yards. That was, for him, that was mostly his coming out party, just letting people know, hey, listen, it's all about burnt orange this year, baby, not Clemson Tiger orange. They stood tall. Also on offense, Vincent McCoy had 8 catches for 143 and 2 scores. Ray Conley had 6 catches for 110 and 2 scores. Jackson James had 9 for 118 and 1 score. And on the defensive side of the ball, Jimbo Smithers had 2 tackles. It was a quiet night for him, but they didn't need him to come up big because they were up so big on offense that it didn't matter. Howard Cook had 8 tackles. Dallas Green had 6 tackles. Terrence Top had 6 tackles. I mean, goodness. Also, Jimbo Smithers did have an interception on the night. Cyrus Baird, he had 3 tackles and 2 sacks, and he anchored the defensive line. Texas closed out the season with a win, and they clinched the top seed in the playoffs. Clemson, they end the season on a sour note, suffering their first loss of the year, and they're going to the first round of the playoffs playing the Oregon Ducks. Up next, we have Notre Dame versus Auburn. Notre Dame came in needing a lot of good juju to go their way in order to get into the playoffs. Needed some help. They beat Auburn 38-21, so that possibly didn't help Auburn's case, which you'll find out soon. But 38-21 was the final score. Notre Dame was 5 for 10 on third downs. That helped their cause a lot, going 50%. They scored 4 touchdowns on 5 red zone attempts. The Fighting Irish were 28% on third down, and they scored 1 touchdown on 4 red zone attempts, which didn't help their cause. Leo Wasiata had 239 and 2 touchdowns and 1 interception. He had 1 85-yard pass, which was amazing. Joe Pantoja, the Raging Bull, had 27 carries for 137 and 1 score. And Mason Miller had 10 tackles, 4 for loss, amazing. Shane Razorback closed out his illustrious career in the CFSL with 5 tackles, 4 for loss, and 1 sack. Jokic was 18 for 25 for 162 and 1 touchdown. Billy Carter had a day that I'm sure that he would choose to have forgotten. He had 56 yards on 22 carries. He did break 1 for 20 plus yards, but aside from that, that was basically it. Crossferry the third didn't do. Oh wow, he went over, and I watched the game. Amazing. Well, he didn't do much at all. On defense, Ollie P. Peters had 10 tackles, 3 for loss, 1 interception. Mark Callaway had 8 tackles and 2 for loss. Jack Law had 4 tackles, 2 for loss. Ryan Chambers had 7. Sky Taylor had 7. So the defense showed up to play. One bright spot that Crossferry the third did have, he did take back a kick, 93 yards for a score. He had 5 kick returns for 205 on the night and 1 score. So there's that. Auburn backs into the playoffs. They lost, but they still made it in due to some variables and some calculations that I'm not going to say right now, but they got to the playoffs, and the Fighting Irish didn't. And in the first round of the playoffs, the Auburn Tigers will be taking on the Washington Huskies. We're going to go ahead and take our first commercial break, pay some bills and whatnot, but we'll be right back. Before you know it, I'm Gregg. This is Section 341 on CFSL Radio.
Hey, how's it going? Could be better, right? Everybody's got wishes, but why you gotta be a sick kid to get them, am I right? Here at Buy-A-Wish, we got a load of magic lamps. We got genies, show a little coin, and we're in business, friend. Everyone says, be careful what you wish for, but everyone is an idiot, and you got a genie. Buy-A-Wish. Come on in and one out.
It's Section 341 with Gregg.
Alright, back at it with these recaps. I'm Gregg, and you're listening to Section 341 on CFSL Radio. Let's get back into it, y'all, these recaps. Let's go. Alright, next up we have Washington versus Oregon. Washington and Oregon came into this game fighting for the number 2 seed in the playoffs. Oregon had lost their last 2 games, and Washington had came off a shellacking against Ohio State. And both teams needed to have a good showing to clinch the number 2 seed in the playoffs. As it turns out, Washington showed up, and it showed up big. They beat Oregon 42-13. They went 9 for 12 on third down conversions. If you get conversions like that all game, you're probably going to win. Oregon went 6 for 14 on third downs, 42%. They went 1 for 5 in the red zone, while the Huskies went 6 for 6 in the red zone. That was a recipe for success for the Huskies and disaster for the Ducks. Doug Oley had 203 passing with 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Ron Dane Jr. had 25 carries for 124 and 2 scores. Laura Helix had 6 catches for 65 yards and 2 scores. And Coyote Imani had 6 catches for 54 yards and 1 score. On defense, Eric Langston came up big. He had 10 tackles, 1 for loss, and 1 sack. Raekwon Dong had 5 tackles, 4 for loss, and 2 sacks. Richard Bradley had 6 tackles, 2 for loss, and 2 sacks. Digger Graves had 5 tackles, 2 for loss, and 1 sack. And Jonah Ina Chavez had 4 tackles, 1 for loss, and 1 sack. So they were keyed up all game long, and they keyed in on the Ducks, and they were successful beating them. Devontae Cribbs had 270 yards passing and 1 score. He had 14 carries for minus 17 yards. They were in his face all game long. The Ducks were discombobulated on offense all game, and Jimmy Tickle had 12 carries for 90 yards and no touchdowns. Cody Betts had 7 catches for 90 yards and 1 score. Vontae Lawson had 3 catches for 44 yards and 1 score. That was mainly all that they did on offense throughout the game, which wasn't saying much, but on defense, Joe Clark Jr. had 10 tackles and 2 for loss. Kyle Moxton was 0 for across the board. He didn't show up all game long. Don't know why, but he didn't show up. Shaka Black had 5 tackles. Bob White had 7 tackles. Yeah. Oregon didn't show up for this game. For the past 3 weeks, they haven't showed up for the games. They're on a 3-game skid, but they're still backed into the postseason. And we'll see what they do on Monday against Clemson. Up next, Ohio State versus Michigan, the rivalry game, the big game, CFSL rivalry. Ohio State versus Michigan. So Michigan, they struggled more or less all season long, but they still could have found their way into the postseason with a win over Ohio State. Like I said, lots of formulas and variables and stuff. Anyway, Michigan, all they had to do was win, and they would have been into the playoffs. Ohio State had other plans, and Ohio State came out on top 45-28, ending the season undefeated. They went 6 of 11 on third down, and they converted half of their red zone trips for touchdowns. They have 456 yards of total offense, 314 on the ground, which is amazing. And Michigan could only muster 33 on the ground with 274 passing. XGA, Xavier Garcia-Allen, had 142 yards passing, but he had 139 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Frost Carson had 29 carries for 136 and 2 touchdowns. When they're clicking, they're hard to beat. You probably won't beat them, like all season. That's why they're undefeated. Martavis Marriott on defense had 10 tackles. Juan Cantu had 3 tackles, 1 for loss and 1 sack. Keaton Castle had 3 tackles, 3 for loss and 2 sacks. Kevin Brackett had 10 tackles and 1 for loss. Juan Cantu had a pick. They were just everywhere all game long in the offense's face, and they just didn't have a chance all game long. Dewey Ainge had 274 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Adam Croft was non-existent today. He had 11 carries for 36 yards. On defense, Jake Lake had 9 tackles, 1 tackle for loss and 1 sack. Ty Palmer had 2 tackles, 1 for loss. Lucky McFadden had 5 tackles, but he had 1 tremendous kick return for a touchdown. He had 4 returns for 177 and 1 score. Miles Freeman had 10 tackles. Tyler Miller had 7 tackles and 1 sack. And Adam Croft had 4 kick returns for 90 yards. Michigan, the game was a lot closer than the score might suggest. They gave all that they had, which is a microcosm of their season. They gave all they had, but they came up just short. You hurt for them, you ate for them, but hey, one team has to win and one team has to lose. It's the CFSL, baby. You know what time it is. Ohio State is the top seed in the Big Ten playoffs, and they have a first round bye. And Michigan, they'll be left to plan for off season and next season, season 6 upcoming. Up next, we have TCU and Penn State. This is the end of an era for both schools. TCU, who will be moving, and they will be coming to Nebraska next year, going to Lincoln, and Penn State is going to be getting dissolved from the CFSL. Both teams came out with a purpose. They've been playing hard all year long. You ache for Penn State because I think like 3 or 4 of their games this year went to overtime, which I think they lost all of them, and TCU just wasn't consistent all season long, even after getting Jared Titonis on their team this year. They just didn't seem to be able to put it all together. TCU closed out this game on a high note, and they won the game 41-35. They had 525 yards of total offense. They had 433 yards passing. They were 4 for 8 on third downs. They even had a 2-point conversion, and they were 4 for 7 on the red zone attempts. Penn State came out to play. They were perfect in their red zone attempts. They were 5 for 5. They had 254 yards of rushing, which is amazing for them. They had 179 yards passing, and they went 5 for 10 on third downs, which I think made the difference in the game. James Kovach for TCU had 433 yards passing with 4 touchdowns, no picks, had a flawless game. Coda Adoc had 19 carries for 83 yards and 1 score. Jared Titonis had 6 catches for 106 and 2 scores, and Horace Lynch had 7 catches for 82 yards and 1 score. David Collins even had 10 catches for 138 from the tight end position, so he had a great game as well. On defense, Marquis Seals Echeverrius had 8 tackles, 2 for loss, and his first interception in the CFSL. Congratulations, good sir. DJ Donald had 3 tackles, 1 for loss. Aaron Davis had 6 tackles. Dazon Morrison had 7 tackles, and Connor Kasparaitis had 8 tackles. So the defense was hungry for TCU, and they came out to play. Walker Mills for Penn State had 179 yards passing, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He had 22 carries for 171 and 3 scores, so he was on a mission. Robert Davis had a pedestrian game by his standards. He had 15 carries for 79 yards and 1 score. Aiden Berry had 11 tackles for the defense. Winston Schmidt had 2 tackles. Harper Allen had 4 tackles. Like I said, Penn State had a valiant effort. They came out and they gave their all. You really hurt for them because I don't think that at the beginning of the season, they thought that the season would end with them not being around. And when you go into the season, you have optimism and you're just thinking sunshine and rainbows and looking at the world through brightly tinted colored glasses. They're going to be all good. But their season comes to an end and their team's going to come to an end. All players are entering the transfer portal, so I wish all of those young men the best, and I hope that they'll find success with their next school. I know we missed a commercial break, but I wanted to kind of just take the time and talk about TCU and Penn State, because when you have two teams who've been trying their tails off all year long, for it to end this way for both schools, kind of sad. So I just felt like we didn't need a commercial break, because I felt like we should have done a proper honoring of those schools and what they've gone through this year. So I kind of slightly tweaked the show so I could talk about that. And, I felt like that was more important than taking a break. It's not all about paying bills, surprisingly. But here we go. So closing out the recaps with Miami versus Florida. All Miami had to do was win the game and they would have made the playoffs. They didn't win the game. They got beat 23-17 by Florida. Kingston Fox and the crew closing out the year on a great note. They had 173 yards passing and 143 yards rushing, so they were balanced all game long. They had 5 for 12 conversions on third downs. Florida was 4 for 13 on third downs. They had 1 conversion on fourth down that they were successful on, but aside from that, they just couldn't seem to put it together when it mattered most. Jose Bueno went 27 for 36 for 249 and 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. Speedy Love was non-existent. He had 10 carries for 34 yards. Nick Bagg had 2 catches for 20 yards. King Twix had 2 for 77. But Jake Willie had 14 catches for 1-on-1, so he came to play Big Willie style. On defense, Kobe Randon had 6 tackles, 4 for loss and 1 sack. Justin Time had 6 tackles. Laquarius David had 11 tackles and 1 sack. Buster Bates had 7 tackles and 1 for loss. And Lamont Terrier had 9 tackles and 3 for loss. So the defense came to play. On Florida's side, Kingston Fox went 26 for 30 for 173 and 1 score. He had 16 carries for 59 yards, and he got to close out the season with the win for his team, closing out his freshman campaign on a good note. Avery Jordan had 17 carries for 79 yards and 1 score, and Nick King had 1 catch for 5 yards. Cole King had 6 for 63, and Jonathan Tate had 2 for 14. On defense, Xavier Holly had 9 tackles, 1 for loss and 1 sack. Muhammad Demore had 4 tackles, 3 for loss and 1 sack. And Othello Jones, who's getting his jersey retired by Florida, had 6 tackles. So congratulations on the accolade, sir. Achievement unlocked. Xbox style, right? All right, y'all. So with that being said, we've come to the end of our recaps. Let's go ahead and take it home, y'all. All right. So a bit of a retrospective. I want to give love to the teams that did not make the playoffs. TCU, Miami, Florida, Penn State, Michigan, and Notre Dame. I know you all tried valiantly this year to get to the playoffs, to have a chance to get a championship. You wanted to punch a ticket, but things weren't in the cards this year. We got some great players coming back next year for all these teams, respectively. We got Lucky McFadden coming back for Michigan. We got Kovac coming back for what's going to be Nebraska. We got Kingston Fox coming back to build on his freshman campaign in Florida. We got Raging Bull, Joe Pantoja, and Leo Asiata coming back for the Fighting Irish. We have talent all across this beautiful, vast CFSL of ours. So if this season wasn't your best one, or if things didn't come together the way you hoped, next year we'll be here before you know it. But upcoming, we got the playoffs starting Monday. We got Ohio State on a bye week, Texas on a bye week. We got Clemson and Oregon locking horns, and Washington and Auburn getting together. We got some great games coming up, y'all. Y'all just stay tuned. Y'all check out the Twitch. Be active in Discord chat. Y'all know who I am. I'm Swaggerton Bear. I'm honored to be here. I'm humble, gracious, honored, and blessed to be able to make this podcast for y'all. It's 24 hours in a day, but thank y'all for spending about 20 minutes with me, just hearing what I got to say and hearing my opinions. I want to thank y'all for checking the podcast out and being such a gracious and grateful audience as I'm the host. And I'll catch y'all sometime in the off season, gearing up for recruiting next season and getting everything together. I'm pretty sure I'll be seeing y'all real soon. You know who I am. I'm Swaggington Beard. Y'all call me Swaggy or Mr. Beard, whatever you like. In Discord chat, the Gregg in Actual Factual Life. In section 341. Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. And before y'all know it, I'll be back in your ear holes with some more stuff to say. Y'all stay up. Y'all stay focused. Stay sharp. Stay blessed. Thank y'all for listening. This is section 341. I'm Gregg on CFSL Radio. All right, peace.
This has been Section 341 with Gregg. Thank you for listening.